Tones Demystified. We're going to talk about tones today. You're going to be a master of tones if you stick around to the end of the video. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. I'm Darren, the traveling polyglot. Today, we're going to dive into one of the most fascinating topics in language learning. We're going to learn about tones. Ma, 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 ma. Cow, 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 cow. If you've ever studied Chinese or Thai, you know how tricky tones can be. But if I told you that the Chinese and Thai tones are actually connected, what would you think? That's right. These two languages share a deep historical relationship and understanding. It can make learning both languages so much easier. So grab a notebook and let's take some notes and let's get started. Stick around until the end because I'm going to share with you some tips for learning Chinese and Thai, and I'm going to share with you what the tones actually sound like in both languages, in Chinese and Thai. Not just what's in your textbook, but what the people actually say, how it sounds, what are tones. You probably think tones are pitches, and you would be partially right. They are pitches. You can think of tones more as like throat positions, like how your throat, how it starts and ends a syllable. That will become more clear as we talk more about the tones, because the tones, they really started out as throat positions. I'm going to tell you how the tones evolved in Chinese so you can understand how these tones are related between Chinese and different dialects of Chinese, as well as Thai. And if you're learning another language, say like Vietnamese or Burmese or Lao, these type of languages that also have tones, well, they will also help you to have this knowledge. So let's go ahead and let's talk about Chinese. As you know now, Mandarin Chinese, it has 4 tones. And how did they become tones? Well, historically, ancient Chinese, there were no tones. There were different types of endings, such as like a PTK ending. That does not exist in the Mandarin Chinese. And then in the Middle Chinese, the tones, they started to form. And there were 4 tone categories. So let's talk about them quickly. The first one is ping. Ping is a level tone. It produces syllables with a steady pitch. It's very level, like ma. And then there was shang. Shang is the second one. Shang actually means rising, going up. Historically, they had a rising pitch. And the thing about the shang tones, they tended to be glottal. So it's like a stop. They ended up becoming rising pitches. So then we have the chu. Chu is departing, the departing tones. Those are the ones that had like falling pitches. Usually happen because of some type of aspiration, like a heavy pitch. Say you had a word like ga, but then when you pronounce it heavy, like ga, yeah, you start to go down. Your throat just automatically goes down. And then we had the ru. The rusheng is the entering, and that includes the syllables I had just mentioned with a PT or K ending. In modern standard Chinese today, there are no PTK endings. If you know some dialects of Chinese, say like Cantonese, or maybe you can speak Korean. In the Korean language, there are PTK endings. Think about the word Hanguk, which means Korea. Hanguk has the K ending. Hanguk comes from Chinese Hangguo. So we can probably assume that in the Middle Chinese, there was a K ending. Another one would be munbop, also a Korean word, has a P ending, the word for grammar. Chinese is one fa. Korean does not have tones, but they have kept the PTK endings, something that Mandarin Chinese has lost. So there are no root tones in Chinese. There are still 4 tones in Chinese. You're going to have to stick around till the end, and I'm going to tell you how they sound. Over the time, these tones evolved. As we just said, in modern Chinese, the root has completely disappeared. It has been in some of the dialects like Cantonese or Hokkien, Fujianese, the southern dialects, but in Putonghua or the standard Chinese, the northern style Chinese, they have been lost. So these syllables, they just went into the other tones. The interesting part is that these tones, they didn't just stay in China. They also spread to other languages like Thai. Now let's fast forward to Thailand. Thai is also a tonal language like Chinese. It didn't really start out as a tonal language. But then again, for kind of these same reasons we had talked about, these throat positions started to form pitches, especially in the Sukhothai. And originally in Sukhothai, Thai, Sukhothai was one of the ancient capitals, and it's where the Bangkok or the Standard Thai gets a lot of its features. I'd say around 700 in the Common Era. they started to form 3 tones, and then as time progressed, they started to form more. There are actually 5 tones in the standard Bangkok Thai that we know today. Thai language, they come from the Thai Kadai people, and they actually originated in southern China, the Yunnan area. For over 1,000 years, Chinese culture and language has had a huge influence on Southeast Asia. That includes Thailand. Here's where it gets interesting, though. Thai didn't just copy the Chinese tones. It developed its own unique system. They have a mid-tone, they have a low tone, they have a falling tone, a high tone, and a rising tone. And they're influenced by 3 key factors. There are the consonant classes. There are the high-class consonants. There are also the mid-class consonants. The majority of the consonants are low-class consonants. There are also 4 tone markers. That's also very important for knowing how the tones work. And the first tone marker is my ek, and my ek usually drops the tone. Then there is the mito. Mito brings the tone up. And then there is the my tree and the my chetawa. These 2 tone markers didn't exist originally when they started making tones. These came in later, especially as Thai started to take more words from Chinese, and they wanted to mimic the Chinese tones at the time, like the my jetawa. Its only function is to make something a rising tone. If there's no other way to make a rising tone, then they will put a my jetawa on it, but you will not find it on any indigenous Thai words. And the same thing with the my tree. We had the last type that I hinted at in Chinese, the PTK endings. They still exist in the Bangkok Thai. We also have the syllable types. They have the live or dead. So there are long and short vowels in the Thai language. If you study Thai, you probably know about them and probably get fits and frustrations about them, but they are very important to your pronunciation. So let's give you some examples. Live ending is something, say you can hum it. If you have a syllable like ma, it goes on and on forever until you run out of breath. Also some consonant endings like or ends and ends. They are live. They can go on. You can hum them. However, there are dead sounds like the PTK endings. In Thai, unlike in English, your throat is going to just stop and you're going to swallow the sound. So say you have a word like for children, dek. You don't say dek. You don't say dek. You just have to swallow the K, dek, and the sound is dead. Also short vowels, they also kill the syllable. So those are the 3 main factors to determining the tones in Thai. Yeah, you can see the Bangkok Thai, they have their system. Even if you go to another city in Thailand, say you go to Chiang Mai, or you go to Isan, or you go to southern Thailand, the tone sounds may change, but they will keep the same system. And the my ek, it will do the same thing. The my toe will do the same thing. The tone, the actual pitch, it will change. The system, it stays the same. So we can map the Chinese and the Thai tones. We just talked about the 4 categories in Chinese. Nowadays in China, in Mandarin Standard Chinese, there are also 4 tones. So there is a first tone in Chinese. It's also a level tone, just like in Thai. And it is a ping. There is the yin and the yang. The first tone, it's an yin ping. And then the second tone in Chinese is also a ping. It's a rising tone. So this is a bit confusing, but it is a ping. It came from the original level tones in Middle Chinese, and it's called a yang ping. We have the shang. The shang corresponds to the third tone in Chinese, which is a kind of a dipping and rising up tone. Goes down and up, similar to the rising tone in Thai. We'll see that in a bit. And then we have the chu, corresponds to the falling tone, not only in Chinese, but also in Thai. So it's just a falling pitch. So in Thai, the ping sheng, it can be the level tone. So in Thai, also like in Chinese, there is the level tone, and that corresponds to the ping tone. And in the high class, you'll also see some rising tones. Then for the shang in Thai, this is the my ek marker, and the my ek, it makes the tone drop. So these are generally going to be low tones. And for the low class, it's actually a falling tone. Then there are the chu, you will see a mito on those. Those can also be falling tones. But for the low class, that actually pulls it back up. So it makes it into a high tone. And then there are the short and dead. And then there are the long and dead. We talked about those PTK endings that would go with the ru or the ru tone. So we have the long and short. Those generally tend to be high tones or low tones. And we can also see some falling tones. You can see very clearly how they are similar, how they're related. The Thai tonal system, it's a cousin to the Chinese system. It's not identical, but we can see how it's related. Why does this matter? Well, if you're learning both Chinese and Thai, you need to understand the connection. That could save you a lot of time, and it could also help you learn some other Asian languages. Understanding the history behind the tones makes it easier to understand how to pronounce them, and it also helps you to understand the history of the language and how the natives think. Generally, the natives, they don't think about the tones because they've been taught it from a very young age. But that certainly makes it easier when you are learning. So I'm going to give you a tip. You need to practice your tones. You need to listen to the native speakers. Start with more simple words, and then you build up to the longer sentences, and it gets easier, and they become more natural. So if you stuck around until the end, this is where you get to learn about how the tones actually sound in modern standard Chinese and modern standard Thai. Like I said in the beginning, the tone is not all about the pitch. It's also about what your throat's doing, but we can talk about the pitch. That will help you to understand. And when you look in your textbook and you learn Chinese, or when you look in your textbook and you learn Thai, you'll kind of understand what it's talking about. But I'm going to give you one spoiler before we start. The tones, they quite often change, even in the standard language. Depends on if your voice is very high or very low, and also depends on if you're a male or a female. But let's go ahead and take a look at Chinese. You can see there's a scale of 1 to 5. We have 5. 5 is way up here. And 1 is way down here. Very, very low. 3 is like a monotone robot. You know, that monotone professor or that monotone math teacher in your high school. Yep, that is a 3 tone. 3, 3, 3, just flat. 4 is a little bit above that. And 2 is a little bit below. So let's go ahead and look at modern standard Chinese. So the first tone, if you look in your textbook, is going to say a 5, 5, 5, 5 level way up here. Ma, ma. But I will tell you right away, Chinese people don't go way up to 5 when they're speaking Chinese. And they would probably do it around like a 3.5, and it would just stay flat. G, G, something like that. And then the second tone, it is a rising tone. If you look in your textbook, it says it goes from 1 to 5, going up, like asking a question. Really? Ma? And I would say that the Chinese people, they don't start all the way down at 1 and go all the way up to 5. No, they don't do quite like that. Probably like a 2 to like a 4.5, or maybe a 1.5 to a 4, depending on their voice. Now, ma, like what? Huh? Ma? And then you got the dipping tone. Many people struggle with the dipping tone, and it's similar to the rising tone in Thai. So it says in your textbook, you start at 2, go down to 1, go way down deep, and then go up to 4. Ma, ma. The third tone, it often changes when it's in front of another third tone. So if you say like ni hao, you would only catch the first part of the third tone in ni hao, ni hao. And quite often, it's just a short dipping tone. They wouldn't go all the way up to 4. It'd probably be something like 2 to 1 to 2.5, 3 maybe. Again, it just depends on the person. And then the last tone, it is a falling tone, falling quickly from 5 all the way to 1. Ma, ma. And it can be helpful if you use your hand when you're learning ma. And again, it would go quickly. It'd probably start around a 4 or a 4.5. Maybe go to somewhere in the 2 range. Again, they're not going to go all the way from top all the way to the bottom. That gives you an idea of the Chinese tones. Now let's talk about the Thai tones. And again, we have the level tone. The level tone appears in Thai, and a Thai textbook will say it's a 333 ma, speaking like a robot. Say that if you listen to a Thai person, especially in a longer syllable, it starts to drop off a little right at the end, especially if they're going down for a low tone or a rising tone, because they have to go down and up, which we're going to get to. Oh, ma, ma. So that is the level tone. Then we have a rising tone. The rising tone, you can kind of think of it as like a pit. It's actually the same as the Chinese third tone, ma, ma, but they call it a rising tone, ma. And I would say that the textbook sounds about like what the teacher sounds like. They would start around a 2, go to 1, and up to a 4. Then the my ek tone. My ek tones would be generally a low tone The low tone is really low, and I would say it's like 2 to 1. Guy, might. Of course, it's going to be a little bit longer if you're on a long syllable, and it'd be shorter on a dead syllable. There is a falling tone, and it looks like kind of like you're going up, down, then you fall down. So you start to go up a little, and you fall down. Ma, ma. Kind of like a falling tone in Chinese, but you got to go up a bit. Sometimes in Chinese, they also do that too, depending on the tone before it. And then we have a high tone, which is a 4 to 5, really high up there. Ma, ma. So those are the 5 tones in Thai. That's all for today's video. I hope that you have enjoyed the video. We looked at the deep connection between the Chinese and Thai tones. Now you are a master of tones, and you understand the history. You also understand that there's more to tones than just the pitch. It's also about the throat position. It's also about your own voice and about the speaker, whoever is speaking, whether their voice is high or low. You know about where the tones came from. So hopefully this has given you some hints on how you can improve your Chinese or your Thai. So please like the video, subscribe to the channel. That will help out the algorithm. And let me know in the comments if you are studying Chinese or Thai, or if you're studying another language. So don't forget to subscribe, as more language learning videos and language learning tips are going to come out. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video.